what I think is going to happen in the next decade is, and you're seeing it with, the Shopify's and all these systems that make it so easy that you don't even have to write a code to sell something. It's going to happen for SaaS as well. You don't have to actually build that interface that your user is interacting with your billing.
Welcome to this episode of Founders with Peck. Today we have Shar Darafsheh. He is a Persian living in America, and he's here to talk about his startup, Billflow.io. So Shar, could you tell us a little bit about you and the startup?
Yeah, thanks, Peck. Well, I moved here when I was 14 back in 2003. So going to 18 years, been in the US. And I really started my first programming language classes back when I moved here, and I fell in love with the whole software as a service concept of being able to build the software and monetize on that. 2005-ish forward, I really got into online payments. Back then, payments were not streamlined at all the way it is right now. And when Stripe came out, that was when I was like, this is what I want to do for my career. I want to build, I want to get into online payments. And fast forwarding to 2017, I saw the opportunity to build a subscription billing platform. When at the time I kind of rebuilt a lot of things that existed. First time founder, had some small startups beforehand that kind of failed here and there. But I still made every single mistake in the books, starting Billflow. And during the process, we realized that a lot of SaaS companies have this issue of billing. Subscription billing was very complex for software as a service companies. They had different pricing model. They had different acquisition strategies like freemium, free trial, and so on. And billing was very much embedded within a SaaS platform. And it was always a pain where a product lead or someone working in a product team had no idea how the architecture of billing actually works within SaaS. So we slowly kind of started building the foundation of what Billflow is today. And if I would explain in one sentence, it's an embeddable billing where you can just drag and drop billing components into your SaaS, works on top of Stripe, and eliminates the time and resources you have to spend as a product team, as a SaaS product team to build your billing system.
Awesome. And you've recently hit some amazing milestones of processing over $1.5 million in transactions, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
How long did that take?
Last year. So the actual platform was launched in September 2019. So it's been a year and a half since we actually have been working with the platform.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, it's somewhat fast. To be honest, it's not fast enough. If you look at the B2C market right now, you see a lot of SaaS companies who are consumer based, moving at a much faster pace. Billing is one of those things that I've noticed. Even with existing platforms, it took so many years until, the sales cycles are larger. It's B2B. It takes much longer for the growth to actually happen, but it's steady and consistent. So we're aiming to kind of get a footmark in the in this market in the next few years.
Yeah. How do you charge your customers?
Yeah, that's actually one of the hardest things, to be honest. Because being the billing system ourselves, we tried to change it 6-7 times in the past year and a half. We tried number of customers, and then it turned out that based on the ARPU, the amount we would charge wouldn't be fair for customers who are charging their customers a much lower customer payment versus B2B SaaS. So we ended up at transaction fee at a flat fee, and right now we only have 2 tiers. So first tier has a higher transaction fee, much lower flat fee. So that pre-revenue seed round startups can start without having to pay much because they're not yet making much revenue, so the transaction fee doesn't really matter. And the second one is like 0.4% transactions and a few $100s flat, which is much tailored for 1 to 10, 15 million ARR company.
Yeah, it seems like more in line with more merchant services, right? Like that's what they're used to. They're not used to a per seat model, or as you get big, you grow the SaaS and stuff. It's a percentage of the transaction. Is it because who are your typical customers?
It is. So the persona is actually like a product lead within a SaaS company who's currently making anywhere from like 1 million to like 10, 12 ish in ARR. Those are the folks who either never built a self-service SaaS billing model. They just kind of focused on the product, got to this point, and now they're thinking of saving a lot of manual processes in billing, or they had something in place, but it's now scaling to the point that they need to handle more pricing models, they're changing their acquisition, and they don't want to waste their internal dev resources to build billing system when they can just focus on their product.
Right. And this is not core product.
Exactly. Same as a lot of like B2B platforms, kind of. I think we're like a hybrid of a platform and a product.
Yeah. Prior to us meeting, if you and I had not met at the Stripe conference a few years back, what do you think? Which way would you have gone in terms of the product?
Yeah, I think if Stripe didn't exist, I guess, that would have made things a lot harder. Subscription, there is, what makes Stripe different, I think, is that they have this amazing API, but yet not a lot of people explain like what does a great API and a dev platform gives you. And I think what it gives you is the fast pace you can go of building more value to your consumer. So like how fast the Stripe actually is moving right now to build this system, this payment and a subscription-based system. It's incredible because in 5 years, in my opinion, it's going to really take over the majority of the subscription billing and the payment market in the internet. So I don't know if I guess me and you didn't meet in Stripe, or I wasn't part of Stripe, I would probably be into cryptocurrencies.
Something, yeah. And how big is your team?
We're still small. Actually, we did everything very unconventionally. We're 8 people at the moment, 5 of which are founders of the team. We bootstrapped the company from the start. I just kind of did things very different than a regular Silicon Valley tech startup. I split the shares in a fair amount between the 5 founders initially, hoping that it would incentivize everyone to push that extra mile every month, every year, while things were not great. And it actually worked out pretty well, because right now it feels like even with the 8 people, the founders are like pushing the entire company right now.
Yeah.
So I don't need to actually worry about incentivizing or motivating the team. It's like an autopilot by itself, which is great.
Good. What are some of the challenges right now? Is growth a challenge?
Honestly, customer support is the biggest challenge right now, because of the fact that billing is a high touch kind of model. The payment that customers pay us for the platform isn't just for the platform, it's also for the support that they get. Sure. A lot of times when they want to move things around, change their pricing, change their models, they come to us and ask a lot of questions of, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? We haven't yet gotten to a point where all of this is so easy and self-serve that like for every little question, we have like a really easy to understand kind of guide for them to go through. That's the whole idea to get to make it easier for them. But now,
is there any repeating patterns that you have observed or documented?
Oh yeah, and I'm actually working on that right now. It's a high level architecture that a lot of people don't understand. Because of that, a lot of question comes through. So we're building like a kind of a quiz thing where you answer like what's your pricing model and what's your acquisition strategy, and then it kind of gives you a standard flow that your software as a service billing should look like, how it works with your existing platform. And then we're going to build a lot of guides for each of those to just make it easier for people for product lead mainly and the dev teams to go through and understand how billing's supposed to be handled without having to learn and go through the learning curve.
Yeah, how we've solved that in our company sometimes is we just create a bunch of Loom videos when people ask and like, hey, here's a Loom video. So if you marry that with like maybe a chat bot, right? When people ask something, it's like if the intent quite somewhat matches this Loom video, you just send them the Loom video. And then if it doesn't work, you try to avoid people at
Yeah, it's hard. It takes time. And sometimes that time is too valuable for us. And,
So nowadays we try to practice it as like, if we have to do something, we don't write it once. We create a video and then we send it. Like if something comes up and it's the same video, we send out the same video,
That's awesome.
It's trying to create process that removes people.
That's really it. Like automating a lot of repetitive stuff over time in a processed way so that you can eliminate that time spent manually every time.
Yeah. So customer support is a challenge. What else is a challenge?
I mean, the other challenges are really, our customers are B2B SaaS companies, and they have to be in a time. It's a specific time in their life cycle where they need to revisit billing. So catch them at that exact right time to say, hey, don't spend a lot of time in-house to build this billing system. That's a big challenge for us to figure out how to actually find them, without doing all these kind of outreach, or we're a technical team, right? Outreach and marketing wasn't our strongest suit. So getting them at the right time and providing that value is a challenge that we're trying to solve. But it's a fun one, at least, because we're learning how to market the product that we built that we know people need.
Are you getting clients directly from Stripe referrals?
We are actually. So the top three channels for us is Google SEO and Stripe itself, Stripe partnership.
Yeah.
And then the third one is integrations within other platforms that are like app builders and no-code community, basically.
Yeah. I started seeing some of the no-code trend is definitely high. So working with those.
Yeah, there's a problem with that community in terms of it's very new, so the market cap is not that big, and there aren't as many larger companies that could drive revenue. So we would end up spending a lot more time than we can actually grow the business.
Is there a common SaaS that is like for example in the in the low code community, there's a lot of job board apps.
Mm-hmm.
So one crazy idea would be for you to build a job board app, but with the billing subscription, for people to pay it to just hook up to your platform. So they buy it with the billing solution and they're hooked into yours platform.
Yeah, well, we were kind of moving away from. So we did a lot of marketing in the no-code community, and that was great. Amazing community in terms of the people and the culture, very trendy, and people are really nice. But it wasn't really driving revenue for us. So what we're doing now is kind of letting that market kind of mature by itself a little more. To a point where there are more app builders, because we sit on top of app builders, and there's only one at the moment called Bubble that exists. A lot of them are building it. We talk to them, but they're not at the point yet where we can build an integration for them. So we're really at the moment focusing on those 1 to 10 million ARR SaaS companies who can really get the most benefit out of our product.
Yeah. So it's a matter of trying to reach those companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious what you're up to. I know last time we talked, you were a great partner with Twilio, and you were working with kind of partnership with Stripe. How is it going? What are you working on these days?
Yeah. So we're still a Twilio partner. We've been working for them for over 6 years now. Stripe has been a little slow because if you look at the typical Stripe's customer, I mean, we serve the agency primarily, my company, and then the Stripe customers, sometimes they're a website or a small shop, e-commerce shop, and they have really, hey, I don't know how to integrate Stripe, but I need a developer. It's not a good fit for us. So Twilio, in a sense, is a better fit as a partner. And what that looks like is, some of the enterprise customers who need help with like SMS, voice, chat, contact center. We, as a Twilio partner, can help build some of these implementations.
Are they mostly like apps or web apps, mobile apps?
They're mostly integrations into existing systems, and sometimes it's like phone systems. So like we're talking IVR, or like replacing an IVR with an old IVR with a new cloud IVR. It could be a call center replacing an old on-prem call center that is, end of life, with a much more flexible cloud contact center.
Awesome. I do have a question about so partnership seems like one thing that like a channel that you've really spent time on.
Yeah.
What were the challenges, or what were your recommendation to someone who's also going through that channel and trying to build a partnership with a much larger company?
Yeah, there's good and bad. I think for you I think the incentives have to be aligned. So obviously the partner wants to sell their solution, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's like the relationship is like, hey, can't you give your product away so that we can sell this? I was like, well, then I don't make money. It's like they have to meet in the middle somehow, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas like, oh, the customer feels it's expensive. Can you give them a discount? It's like, well, if you're a software developer, you only make that money one time with this guy, with this client. Whereas they're a SaaS, so they're the ones who are going to make recurring money, right? So trying to make like the advice to partners is make sure that if you need help from partners, to make sure that these incentives are aligned. Like maybe they get a cut. Like, hey, if I have to give a discount, but maybe I get a cut of the recurring revenue, then that's a win-win for everyone. For example, these are just my observations and suggestions. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then other partners, like doing it well means like working with a company that sort of has a mature partner program, meaning like they might have somebody dedicated to you, or maybe a few of, they might be assigned to you and a few others to have a weekly check-in. Because if there's no kind of current touch point, then you kind of lose a relationship, right? Like if you don't see someone for a while, you kind of forget. So you want partners who engage with you on a regular basis. They assign you someone. And then also you want to, like you yourself could be doing, is educating their salespeople, their account managers, their solution architects on your solution, so that when they have a customer that fits your needs, they can think of you. So not only are you marketing towards all of your customers, but you're marketing to your market, to your channel partner. Yeah, so you have to really do that as well. Yeah,
that's really interesting, because like I'm assuming like Twilio also had like an in-house kind of implementation team. How did you differentiate? How did you actually position to the sales team that, hey, this is going to be a kind of, this is helpful for? How do you align those incentives with?
Well,
with the sales team?
some big SaaS companies, their professional services team are not there to write production code. There's two things. One, I think it has to do with valuation. You're valued higher if you're a pure SaaS company, because your revenues are not tethered to the number of people you have. So, if you may make more money as a company with professional services, but the value, the multiplier of the company is actually less, because they discount the fact that you have bodies. It's risk. And then the other thing is these type of companies typically don't want to write production code because they don't want to be on the hook if something is down. They don't want to have a maintenance contract. They already maintain their systems. That's what they're good at. They're not going to maintain like a GE third-party system. So they don't want to write that. What they do is they write you sample code, and they expect you, the client, to have your own engineers to be able to make sense of the sample code and translate that into production. They basically do not want that risk. So what they do is they have partners who may or may want to take on that risk depending on how desperate they are. Yeah.
No, that's really interesting. Yeah, we particularly with Stripe, we realized, it's such a fast growing company that, people positions changes all the time.
Yeah.
Being able to align those incentives becomes harder when you have a new person kind of in front of you at all times. So
yeah,
it's interesting. I think there needs to be like a guide for partnerships for like a small like startup who's trying to become partner with a really large like corporation of like what are the best practices.
I don't have enough for a book yet, but I have enough for at least several blog articles.
That would be a great starting point.
Yeah. I think, getting time with them, on different levels, meaning like, they'll put you in front of a partner person, but it's even better if you can connect your way up to like a C level, like in Twilio world, it'd be like Jeff Lawson or George Hu, or like in your, the Collison brothers, like get them to know you and have them understand how you guys can get aligned and create win-win, and understand which way you're going. They're going, because if they're going that way, you building tools towards that, you're just going to get crushed, right? You would just stay away from that.
Exactly.
So like trying to understand the roadmap. So like that was some of the challenges that we ourselves weren't clear on or understand. So we built some stuff that, eventually Twilio built. So then it was useless, it's not very helpful. So like making sure that you're aligned, and you do that by making sure that you are able to meet with the different levels of executives.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
That's pretty spot on in how we've experienced it as well.
Yeah. And then of course, if you want to be the best partner, it can't just be them bringing you deals, right? It's you also have to figure out a way to bring them deals. Yeah. Which is hard because they're a much bigger company with much bigger budget, with much bigger, their whole marketing team is bigger than my whole company. So like how many leads can I possibly bring them,
Yeah.
So that's the challenge.
Yeah. I've been reading, I just finished this book called Essentialism. And it's really helpful, at least for like a small startup, to understand like there's literally like millions of things to do, within to move that needle, but there's only like 2 or 3 of them that will actually make the biggest impact. And at least I've been trying to like eliminate all the processes that we did before that doesn't really make much of a difference, and just focus on those 2 or 3 that we think are going to make the difference. And I think that's the way for a small startup to really make an impact while they're working with like a large corporation, or their competitive competition is actually like a large like VC funded Series D or so company.
Yeah. Do you have other partners too? Is it like just like a single partner thing, or is it a two-partner?
We do. The partnership between us and Stripe is very different than our other partnerships, because other partnerships is like an add-on kind of. So we have a partnership with affiliate programs called Rewardful, for example, with Bubble, who's an app builder. So we're like a plugin system inside it, a billing plugin inside it. With Stripe, we really did it differently. We built it on top of them. We built our platform on top of. So if you're a company who's not using Stripe, you can't really use Billflow at the moment. And we did this strategically because we knew the market cap that Stripe was going after was very massive, and that's going to increase over time.
Yeah.
And we just made a bet that we don't want to take on the technical debt of building many different integrations with different partners in order to make billing easier, where we can focus on making it really easy with one platform that is growing at, faster than any other in the market. So yeah, Stripe partnership is a little different. And that's why we're working really hard to be kind of partners with them and stay on top. And
So how are you upselling? Are you adding more add-ons, or is it mostly increasing seats and spend? Like, how do you find other opportunities to increase the value of the product?
No, that's great. So like, we rebranded our company to Billflow just recently. It was called ServiceBot beforehand, which
I remember that.
It didn't align with what we were doing in the beginning, and the whole name of Billflow came because we realized like it's the billing flow. There's so many pieces where your end customer actually interacts with the billing system. And those start from your pricing page on the website to the plan picker, where your customer actually picks the right plan, purchases for the first time, and all the way through like your add-ons and your subscription management, or like upselling specific feature, upselling specific usages, like the Twilio model. If you look at the Twilio pricing, it's massive. There's so many complexities within that pricing. Imagine, how big of a billing team they have to actually maintain that. So we want to get to a point where all of these pieces, no matter how complex your billing system is, are drag and drop, and you manage it from a single source of truth, which is really Stripe. But we want to be able to kind of embed within Stripe and give this functionality of user interface billing, basically. That doesn't exist. The other thing is that, a lot of people don't know about the payment and billing market. Is early 2000s, the big change was like payments, online payments. Now you can actually send credit, like pay with credit cards on a website and purchase something. That was pretty big. And then in 2010 to 20, it was a boom of the subscription billing systems, where now you can actually get payment, and you can automatically charge someone on a recurring basis.
Yep.
What I think is going to happen in the next decade is, and you're seeing it with the Shopify's and all these systems that make it so easy that you don't even have to write a code to sell something. It's going to happen for SaaS as well, where we are, that you don't have to actually build that interface that your user is interacting with your billing. It's the third layer. It's the user interface of payments and billing for software as a service, which is way more complex than e-commerce in this case.
I feel like it's already kind of here with some of these GUIs and stuff, no?
Yeah, they're coming. Like even Stripe has like hosted solutions now. So like hosted checkout, hosted customer portal, and so on. But again, for SaaS is a different game, because you really need your flow within your software as a service. You don't want to kind of get out and come back in. And there's a lot of components, like the add-ons, like I said, like you want to have a user go inside of your app, and there's like that one feature that they need to pay an additional $100 a month for. You want that button to work right inside of your app and like upsell them in the existing subscription they're paying for. So all those little components, you shouldn't be having to get your dev team to build it or maintain it over time.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. And you mentioned you bootstrapped it. So is the goal to fundraise at some point?
Yeah, I do get a lot of emails from investors, and I usually kind of jump on and build the relationship. It's great to build relationship and meet people, but I'm very particular about like the investor that is going to actually invest in Billflow, because I'm not looking for just the check. I'm looking for someone who can actually connect me to a portfolio of SaaS companies who are going to become Billflow's customers in the future.
Yeah.
And to be honest, because of our relationship with Stripe, in terms of the partnership we have and we sit on top of it, it's a tricky thing to, I'll have to be careful of what investor we're getting involved with. Ideally, what I would want is Stripe's leading that investment.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like anything like YC companies or tech stars that are working on SaaS companies seem like a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is the SaaSter fund. Have you heard of the SaaSter fund? Because
I have.
every one of the SaaSter fund companies are going to be SaaS companies. They just want to build a product, and you can just plug right in, and it's like, yeah.
Absolutely. No, I actually talked to them. I like Jason a lot. I follow him on LinkedIn. I talked to his team about sponsoring the next event. I really liked the conferences before COVID, and the online conferences just don't do the
It's
justice.
not the
You know?
same. It's not the same at all.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely. Maybe next year.
So nailing down customer service is a huge priority. Once you can fix that, maybe you can add more to the top of funnel without killing your support staff.
Yeah, I mean that is the goal, adding more to the top of the funnel, but like qualifying the leads so that we're working with the ones that we can help the most. Like that's
Yeah.
the whole point, right? Like how do we provide the most value to the right user? And I'm sure like I've been listening to a lot of podcasts on B2B sales leads talking about how they handle their sales team and so on. It's a recurring challenge that
Is this a high
outreach.
touch sales right now, or are you trying to make them self-serve?
It's a high touch sales, but the goal is to make him self-serve over time, make it more self-serve than it is, at least like less touch than billing has at the moment.
Yeah. My friend has a high touch business as well. And one of the things he does, which I'm impressed by and I want to copy, is before you can schedule, he's like, when you're ready to schedule a call with him, he sends you a link. People think, oh, usually that's a Calendly link. This is actually a link to a video. So it's a video you watch. It's like, hey, this is what we do. We typically look like for customers like this. This is our minimums, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff that gets it out of the way. If this is not you, please don't continue. But if this is you,
it's really interesting.
and then click next, and then it reveals the Calendly link. So then he just eliminates, all the app idea people and all the people who have low budget and stuff like that.
That's really smart. That's really good way of like kind of weeding out like the.
He doesn't even have to respond to that, right? It's just an auto email. Yeah.
And I'm assuming at the end of it kind of, if it's a right fit, then you can kind of book a
meeting with them. Yes, exactly.
That's really smart.
Yeah. So I took that as a good thing that I want to borrow.
Nice. I might do that too.
Yeah. Well, this is a very different call. It's been very interactive. Usually I just ask a lot of questions, but you're asking me a lot of questions. So that's fun too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. What are, I guess on that topic, like what are your goals for 2021?
Well, one is this podcast is to grow this. We're actually almost close to recording the whole season. And we're close to processing the first half season. So I'll release it as like half of season one. You can binge it Netflix style. Grow this podcast. I'm exploring, I wouldn't say like it's a strong thesis, but I'm exploring ideas around other types of income. I think the Valley has distorted my frame of reference of what is an entrepreneur and what is a good business necessarily. Like, hey, it's like, oh, it's got to be a tech, SaaS, monthly recurring, MRR, ARR, unicorn, blah 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 status. And like that's okay. That's one. Like a business like a podcast where you build the content once, and let's say the content is valuable and people pay for it, whether you pay for it or people pay ads for it, is just as valuable, and if anything less headache, because the content doesn't break in the middle of the night. I don't, the server, like if the server goes down, it's not even my server. It's like a YouTube server or an Apple server. So, just trying to explore other ideas, but also like it's a multi-hit combo. Like here, I'm learning from you, so we're reconnecting. We haven't talked in a while. I'm learning. Maybe I can incorporate that into my new business. But yeah, so I'm sort of exploring different business ideas. But before I jump into any of them, I wanted to talk to a bunch of people, especially very different types of people. Like I've talked to somebody who quit her tech job and started a tea company. A guy who started 2 game studios. Talking to an app developer, like a single game app developer. Just different, entrepreneurs, not just like tech SaaS entrepreneurs, just to kind of broaden the definition of entrepreneurship a bit.
That's amazing. Do you listen to podcasts yourself, or?
I do. I listen to quite a lot. Which one do you listen to?
I move around, so I have this routine in the mornings, which I can't live without, except one is like I wake up around like 6:30. I live in Berkeley, so the weather is not just kind of consistent across the year, kind of. I do a 10-minute run, 10-minute kind of, basic workout, and 10 minutes of meditation. And during the run and the workout, I listen to usually Indie Hacker podcasts. Cortland is one of my favorites.
I love that. Yeah.
It's such an amazing one. If Tim Ferriss has someone that I'm interested in, I usually listen to that. And sometimes I'm like listening to a book, some Audible book that I'm like obsessed with, that I'm listening for like the second or third time. But it's been working great. So
do you listen to Nathan Latka's company podcast?
I have listened to a lot of his YouTube videos where he talks to the founders.
Yeah.
Nathan, I think, got a lot better over time in terms of like the way he interacted with founders, I'd say.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of value out of it, but I kind of drifted away from his podcasts.
Noah Kagan's new YouTube channel is amazing. I would recommend that. And then in terms of podcasts, The Hustle and Sean Puri, My First Million, that is so great. That is so great. And then the other one is called Acquired. I listen to Acquired a lot by Ben Gilbert and Dave Rosenthal.
Oh, nice.
So they have like deep dives into topics. So they'll have a 2-hour talk on Bitcoin, like the history, where it's at now, like DoorDash, Virgin Galactic, Airbnb, Sequoia Capital, like how it started, and and even Chinese companies like Pinduoduo. Talk about TikTok, Lyft IPO, Atlassian IPO. Yeah, all good stuff.
That's amazing. Yeah, just
really deep dives.
Just subscribe to it. No, that's awesome. I love listening to these stories. Never gets old.
Yeah, so Shar is going to give us a sweet deal for our audience. Is it PEC 2021?
Yep, it would be 20% off the monthly payments of Billflow.
Okay, for a year or forever?
We usually do the first year.
First year.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for being on the show, and it was great to catch up. Last I met you, it was at that Stripe conference, and I knew you still had Service Bot, and I saw that you had pivoted to something more Stripe, and I wanted to catch up and see how things were going.
Yeah, no, this was awesome. Hopefully we get to see each other again, maybe in one of these conferences.
Yeah. Exactly.
Face to face when COVID is done.
Yeah. I miss those conferences because you do meet people. When you're at this virtual conference, like I've been to a couple now, and you don't meet people. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
It's really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah. They don't have like a lounging around area where people would just hang out, or they have to figure out how to translate that into the virtual world so that people can commingle and meet and have serendipitous meetings like this.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Well, I'm hopeful because the vaccine is about to be fully around the country, and
Yeah.
we're going to be able to be face to face soon.
Yeah. Any books you wrote you could recommend?
Yeah, I mean, the main one that I've just finished, that, you know, my answer is always based on the last book I finished, is Essentialism, which really helps me as a founder, by Greg McCone. Yeah, that's great. I read a lot of marketing books, to be honest, like The Traction and Positioning by April Dunford.
Yeah, I've read Traction. Yeah.
Yeah, Traction is like the book I think every founder should read. Obviously Awesome is the positioning book by April Dunford that I loved. That one I listened to 4 times.
Oh, wow.
that's how good it was. And of course, my all-time favorite book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic. Cool. Well, thank you so much, Shar. Yeah, pleasure to have on your show. And I'm sure, you know, as we get further, I'd love to kind of revisit and re-interview you and kind of get an update on the progress and the status.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure.